A very delightful morning and welcome to the midweek edition of Rise and Shine, coming to you live from Spectrum Television. Of course, we're beaming live from the very beautiful city of Akwa Ibom State. This is where we get to talk about Nigeria and bring you up to date with latest happenings and development. My name is Francis Oyima Adet, and I'm excited to be here with you. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning to be alive and to rise and shine wherever you are. My name is Uyai Anyekan. Would really love for you to be a part of the conversation. Let's drive the topic in Nigeria. What's really happening on your end of the country today, being Wednesday? How's it been from Monday through today? Take advantage of our social media platforms, all of which you can find at Spectrum T online. That's for X now, and you can also find us at spectrumtvlive.ng. We'd love for you to participate, get into the comment section, take advantage of our WhatsApp number, and let's hear your thoughts on the issues that will be brought on the floor of Rise and Shine this morning. Good morning, and thanks for joining us once again.
Of course, a lot of issues, but first and foremost, happy International Day of the Girl Child.
Oh, please. Please, by all means. Thank you. Thank you very much. For myself and all the women out there in the world, happy International Girl Child's Day. We are doing the most.
Yeah, you guys are doing
we are doing the most.
You're doing the most.
I think I recently had to be in the hospital a lot, and I just heard lots and lots of women, talking about how that, oh my God, women go through a lot. If it is not this one, it is that one, and literally I heard people, explaining the psychology of a woman as some form of weight, when you're talking about like arthritis, pain in the knee and all of those kinds of things. I mean, I heard people say when you take the upper part and put on it, you take the back side and put on it, you take this one and put on it, and all of those weights. And I just had to laugh. Women, we are actually doing the most, and we deserve all the celebration and all the conversation that helps us, live in a very, very equal, what would I call it, world where the voices of the women are heard, where their plights are being attended to, and all of that. And part of this conversation is what we're here to do today.
Definitely. Well, we celebrate all the women, the girl child of the world, Nigeria, Akwa Ibom State, Africa, the world. Of course, today is the day where we set aside to, give issues and voice concerns bordering on the growth of the girl child, which, of course, across the different societies of the world has been a major challenge. And of course, we've been told if we will be able to, achieve the SDGs, talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, we will need to prioritize, focus more, invest more in the girl child, and of course towards her achieving potentials, dreams, visions, the issue of education, her health, the issue of marriage, the issue of other societal, biases and stereotypes that have been, whipped up over time that has kept the girl child in chains, needs to come to the front burner. And beyond that, we need to also look at the willingness on the part of our politicians, first and foremost, to make legislations that will aid in the actualization of these goals. Another thing that needs to be looked at is the women themselves. I know that over the last few decades, or the last decade rather, we've had slogans like women supporting women. There have been calls for women to no longer wait for the opportunity to be given, but for them to rise up, take the seat, create a space on the table, and of course let the world know that you can do it. I think that was the theme for the 2021 International Day of the Girl Child's celebration. Of course, that was followed up with 2022, and this year is another interesting moment to reflect, especially as a man. Growing up from my background, I think one of the most treasured legacies that I got from my father was the fact that the girl child and the male child are equal and should be given equal responsibilities, equal rights, equal inheritance in the home. And that's how you begin the training. That's how you begin to, conscientize the minds of the male children to not think that they are superior, to the female children in the family. So as we celebrate today, we're going to hold a whole lot of conversations around that. But coming down to a focus of today, starting with a very first flash story, we see that The federal government yesterday said it was considering the growing demand for establishment of an international anti-corruption court, describing it as a paradigm shift in its approach to combating corruption at the global level. Of course, the government said the corrosive impact of corruption on Nigeria's development, stability and prosperity could not be overstated. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, represented by our Deputy Director of Public Prosecution, Yusuf Abdullahi Abdul Kadir, stated this in his speech delivered in Abuja during the 33rd Anti-Corruption Situation Room organized by the Human and Environmental Development Agenda, also known as HIDA Research Center, in collaboration with Integrity Initiative International. Now, I know that for the longest time in Nigeria, when issues of corruption is being mentioned, the next thing you hear is that we're yet to arrive when it comes to actually fighting corruption. And one of those issues boils down to the longevity, the lifespan of corruption cases, where, you know, someone is accused today and the next 4 years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, you know, the case is still slugging it out like a slug or a snail in the courtroom, or a tortoise still working. And then you get to ask certain questions. If somebody actually embezzled from the public funds and the court case is lingering for years, when is justice ever going to be served? And that also has been, you know, posited as one of the biggest challenges the Nigerian system has in fighting corruption.
Well, we know that we've seen the likes of the NIP, SS saying that capital punishments will not eradicate corruption in Nigeria. When we see the likes of Fagbemi, you know, coming to the desk and asking, you know, for the establishment of an IACC in Nigeria, especially because when we're talking corruption, especially in our public sector, we find out that these persons that engage in these, you know, frivolous activities usually would siphon these monies to other countries of the world. I know we would hear of Swiss banks and all of those kinds of things. People come, smuggle money on private jets and all of those things and take them out of the country. So one of the things that, you know, Fagbemi is trying to highlight here is how difficult it is for you to what's the word now, proceed with prosecution when most of those cases are interlined with other international laws because of the countries, and we do not have an IACC in Nigeria. So for instance, if we have that court established in Nigeria, it will be easier for us to navigate and establish proceedings for, you know, investigations and prosecutions for people found culpable of these corrupt practices. When we're talking about, you know, even persecuting, even investigating up to the extent of repatriation of these funds. I mean, we are still talking about the gradual repatriation of the Abiola loot, Abacha, I beg your pardon, the Abacha loot in Nigeria. If we had these kinds of courts, it probably would have expedited, you know, the process of making this happen faster and quicker. We have a lot of people that have been highlighted for corrupt practices in the country, but because it's tied to international communities, sometimes, you know, these international communities will want to finish with their own proceedings, and then Nigeria will now follow suit behind. I mean, the recent case of Alice Medrike is not even far-fetched. We don't have to go so far to be able to find an example. Now, I think one of the biggest questions will be, does Nigeria have what it takes to actually establish an IACC in the country? Because, I mean, at this point, are Nigerians satisfied with the Nigerian judiciary, as it were? Are they working, you know, in time to deliver justice as should be done in line with the Constitution? Because we will not, you know, create that platform in Nigeria, but yet it's not functional. Sometimes some of these kinds of courts would help you treat nation by nation international related issues. For instance, other nations on the continent of Africa can actually come to Nigeria to try some international cases. So it will mean that Nigeria must first of all be ready to execute this line of action beyond just thinking about it. But I think in the first place, it's a good thought by Fagbemi to even, you know, bring this up, to think it through in his ministry. If it is properly thought through and the policies properly enumerated, I think it will go a very long way to bring us resolution with regards to corruption where international extensions are involved.
Well, it definitely will go a long way, but you raise a very salient question. Does the country have what it takes to build and, of course, establish the court? That's one question. Second, does the country leader have the political will to actually ensure that, the court becomes a representative or a mirror that shows that we can actually see through, justice being served? Now, already Nigerians have a lot of questions on the integrity of the Nigerian judiciary system, and there are a lot of concerns over the integrity of the judges, the lawyers themselves, and people who are found within the law court. Of course, these are all concerns that, if well addressed, the Nigerian people can easily restore and repose that confidence back. But corruption has eaten so deep into Nigeria so much that even the child in the womb is aware of how corruption is. I mean, if children during the just concluded Independence Day anniversary of Nigeria would call for a country free of corruption, that just shows you that corruption has eaten so deep that children are now aware that one thing that Nigeria is synonymous with is corruption. So it's a call for today's leaders, it's a call for the older generation to rise up to the consciousness of looking at what we will be bequating for our children. Because if we are training children to see that when you steal from the public fund, all you need to do is know a few up, high and mighty personalities, press a few buttons, throw a few dollars around, and you will get justice delayed. And even you can feign insanity, you can feign anything within the courtroom, and it will be used as an excuse just to allow you go. So it is a cankerworm that has eaten so deep into the fabrics of Nigerian society. It is one of the things that has kept us where we are. I mean, looking at all the sectors of the Nigerian economy, looking at the oil sector particularly, the major source of revenue for Nigeria at this point, how far has the corruption gone, and how much political will has been shown by successive administration, including the present administration of Ahmed Bola Tinubu? You're also looking at modalities, or should we call it measures, by the government, successive administration. How do you, equate fighting corruption, for instance, and releasing corrupt public officials who have been sentenced to imprisonment, and then you're releasing them? Let's say, yes, as a president or as a state governor, you have the prerogative to grant amnesty or to, give presidential pardon or executive pardon to inmates. But then there should be high-profile inmates that cannot fall into the category of being given presidential pardon. Because as you release those people, the mindset you're creating, the picture you're painting is that as long as, you have life, as long as you have a few persons pressing buttons on your behalf, as long as there are persons who owe you favor, as long as you have, your network spreads its tentacle to the high and mighty in the society, then you can do anything in Nigeria and go scot-free. I saw a video yesterday online that talked about the ongoing saga, I think, in Delta State, where a serving House of Assembly member was allegedly involved in some adult, related video release. And of course, just within I think that was on Hilda Dakubos's page when she spoke about the issue. And then just within 2 weeks of that incident, surfacing, a young man has been arrested, has been investigated, and the court has, issued a verdict in just 2 weeks of that incident happening. Yet in the same state, we have election issues that have been on for more than 10 years. So you ask, what is the difference? Is this court different from this other court? How is it that issues of national security, issues of national importance, issues of collective growth and advancement will linger within the court system for ages? But issues that should not otherwise, be treated with such urgency are being given the utmost priority.
Very big questions that we continue to ask. Like I said earlier, it's a big question on the, the Nigerian judiciary, as it were, and even the executive arms of government. There's a lot of things that we need to redo if we must have these kinds of conversation. Like you had rightly said, one of the biggest problems is that you would see that a public servant is highlighted for corrupt practices in the country, and then next thing you see that he has made the ministerial list and is being nominated to take one position or the other, and sometimes times you see, oh, the EFCC is pursuing this person, and before you know it, the issue is swept under the carpet. No real ways have been put forward to handle these issues. These are the real problems. If the Attorney General of the Federation, in the person of Fagbemi, saying that at this point it is getting imperative for Nigeria to have an IACC just to be able to handle corruption cases, especially as it covers for international communities. Let's see how we can go beyond conversations, because I think part of the biggest problems in Nigeria is like we always talk the talk. Getting to get the action out is usually like the problem. But still talking about corruption this morning in a really bizarre conversation making the rounds just yesterday, we see the fact that an army general has been jailed for 7 years and ordered to refund the sum of 3.7 billion naira to the Federation account. But before I go into the nitty-gritty of that particular conversation, you asked the big question this morning. That's a Nigerian general in the army who has been jailed for 7 years. What is the guarantee that he's going to actually serve even a day jail time? Or even if he goes in for a year, what's the guarantee that he's going to serve 7 years in all? But of course, a Nigerian Army Special Court Marshal sitting in Abuja just yesterday, being Tuesday, convicted a former group managing director, Nigerian Army Properties Limited, Major General Umaru Mohammed, of corruption and sentenced him to 7 years imprisonment. Now, the military court also ordered Mohammed to pay back about $2.178900 million when converted to naira. That's about at 1,000 naira per dollar. And it's also really pitiable that right now Nigeria is actually going at 1,000 naira per dollar. Francis, it's the most ridiculous conversation I have had in the past few days, and it's alarming. The burden of this on importation and trade in the country cannot even be overemphasized. The federal government needs to do something about how forex and the dollar is trading in Nigeria. This is unhealthy for our economy. Well, let's go on with the real case on the table. At $2.1 million equaled about 2.1 billion naira, Mohammed, of course, is to repay this to the Federation. The total amount, when added, becomes 1.6 billion naira at 3.7 billion naira. And okay, of course, he's to repay this to the Army Properties and the NAPL. My question: when you steal public funds to the billions, what exactly do you intend to do with it? I think the average person does not know how much a billion is. And I remember that time when we were in secondary school, we used to calculate if you have 1 billion naira and you spend, I don't know how much we used to do that time, since 50,000 naira, 100,000 naira per day. You will not be able to spend that amount of money in your lifetime and finish as a person. Then you hear that people are stealing the sums of 4 billion naira. You stole it. Not that you did investments and aggrandized that for yourself. You stole it from public coffers, monies that were given for projects. People siphoned this. Well, it's good to see that the court martial, has actually given this verdict. But we need to see, first of all, big question: is he going to be able to, return this money? There's a lot of other cases that were leveled against Mohammed, misappropriation of funds, and I know that he was discharged and acquitted for one particular case in terms of collaborating for forgery. He was discharged and acquitted, but about 12 counts charges were actually brought against him, of which a number he fell prey to at this time. Lots of money to be returned to the account of the NAPL.
And of course, a lot needs to be done. The very big question is about the return of the money.
Exactly.
Will we see that actually happening? Because we've seen, I think one of the second biggest blow to the so-called touted anti-corruption fight of previous administration, and possibly already happening in this administration, is the fact that you always hear the court has directed, but there is no implementation. There is no enforcement. And who are those allied with the responsibility of enforcing the law? Is the executive. So when there is no political will on the part of the executive, then the court has done its job. They have done their duties. They have done their obligations, their due diligence. They have been able to find someone guilty. They've made the verdict. And of course, the verdict has been documented. But will we see implementation on the part of the executive? Will we see the funds actually being recovered to the coffers of government? Now, this is just one pointer again to some of the issues that has been raised as far as the Nigerian, military is concerned in this country and the fight against insecurity. Now, if a general who has been well trained, who has been, given the best of professional training, a general who has been exposed to a lot of discipline in life, as we know that I think the armed forces are the most trained, the most disciplined group of persons, or should be. Now, if someone within that cadastre is able to condescend so low to actually pilfering from the public treasury, to actually embezzling that much, and now being convicted, what is the guarantee that we don't have a lot more of these criminal elements within the armed forces of Nigeria? And then if this is just one person taking this much billions, how much more are being stolen right under our noses that, we have not even been able to identify that this is actually happening? So it's a lot of concern when we see things like this happening. While we commend the special, court-martial court of the Nigerian Armed Forces, it is also very critical that a lot of attention needs to be paid to the activities of, the men and women of the armed forces of Nigeria.
I think another question, just to tip in there, not to take words from your mouth. Now, when you say that the likes of Mohammed have been indicted by the court-martial, did he carry out all of those activities in the years that he did on his own? Because monies need to pass from one source to the other, from one person to the other, through the years to be able to be siphoned. Where are all the other, culprits in the long chain of this happening? Because, it's going to be you making sure that someone else is able to pad. How come we have not heard the names? Because oftentimes you would find out that probably another senior official, was involved in this, but then you find someone who can act as a scapegoat, and then there's going to be back-end transactions of, oh no, we know the court-martial will see it, you're going to be indicted, but we will walk your way around it. We do hope that this is not really the case. We need to begin to see that people that are, court-martialed and found guilty, now even in the civil court, actually serve their time and pay back these monies. Implementation of payback, Francis, is a big question. Does the EFCC, the ICPC in this country actually have what it takes? It was still taking back Alison Madueke, for instance. There were some of her properties around the FCT that were asked to be foreclosed. And then I think within 2 weeks again, we had another court saying, oh no, she's not in the country. You can't just go ahead and foreclose on some of those things. So these are really big issues in the country that needs to be attended to. But kudos to, the court-martial that sat, as it were, 7 years backed by the Army General Mohammed for, corrupt practices. But let us move on again. I think it's some form of corrupt money. What happened? I don't. This seems to be, really. We're just looking at lots of corrupt issues because there's corruption in education. I was particularly concerned yesterday when I saw that in Ethiopia, about only 3% of students that write the transitory examination into universities are able to pass. 3% of the backlog of people that write exams are the only persons who are, able to pass. So just like saying in Nigeria, only 3% of Nigerian students in secondary schools are able to pass JAMB to make it to the universities. This is a problem. But we are seeing that NECO has indicted 93 schools for cheating and blacklisted 52 supervisors. Now, the National Examination Council released the results of the 2023 internal senior secondary school certificate examination with a record of 61.60% of candidates scoring 5 credits and above, including English and mathematics. However, the Examination Council disclosed that 93 schools were found to be involved in whole school that's mass cheating, while 52 supervisors were recommended for blacklisting due to poor supervision, aiding and abetting during the examination. We see the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of NECO, Professor Dantani Wushishi, disclosing this while announcing the release, of the results of these examinations. Of course, erring schools would be invited to council for discussion, after which appropriate sanctions would be applied. we see 1,196,985 candidates, representing an average of 616,398 males and 580,587 females that sat for that particular examination. And for students with special needs, we had 1,543. But these numbers are high at this time to be highlighted for examination corrupt practices.
Of course, examination malpractice has been a major cause for concern. But I beg to differ when it comes to accusing Nigerian children or Nigerian students, or when it comes to blaming Nigerian students. I mean, you're looking at the curriculum that is being used to teach children. How many secondary schools are actually able to cover the curriculum that prepares the students adequately for the examinations? How many government and non-government institutions? We can give it to most of the private schools. They do their job, they do due diligence. But how many of the government-owned establishments or schools are able to take holistically the students through the curriculum that is used for the examination? Now, if the schools are not able to take the students through, how do you expect students who have not been properly tutored in the different subjects that they have to sit for to write and pass? Now, the average parent in Nigeria needs their child to write the examination and pass in one sitting, because it's becoming a problem when you have to sit. You have one sitting, you have 2 credits, and the rest are not worthy of note, and then the next sitting you have 3 credits, so you combine. So most Nigerian parents, most Nigerian students, most Nigerian schools turn it into a money-making venture, where you see students that are being made to pay certain amount of money. After the payment, teachers are also being conscripted to solve the questions as the land. And then I think in the course of my life as a teacher, I've witnessed a scenario where parents actually came to school to say, other schools are doing this. When I was teaching in a Catholic school, parents came to say, you know what? Why are you people trying to be different? Other schools are collecting money and, they're writing the answers on the board for students to copy. I think it was for the first time I also got to know that even carbon papers, teachers get to write those this thing and duplicate the answers, and so distribute it among the students. So the teachers now act as the monitors for the external invigilators or supervisors that will come. And sometimes the external invigilators, as they come, they also know that something is happening in this school. So they're already, preparing their mind for how much they're going to take home.
Yeah.
So they begin to negotiate, how much have you charged each student? How many students do you have? And then they calculate the tally. Okay, I'm taking this percentage of the money you've gotten from the students. So for us to be able to tackle this decay in the educational system, we need to go back to the basics. We need to go back to, strengthening our curriculum. We need to go back to making sure that we don't just have a curriculum that we see, first term, this is what we are going to teach. Second term, this is what is going to be taught. Third term, this is what is going to be taught. But we need to segment our curriculum in a way that students are being taught all through holistically. The average Nigerian child is a very bright child, and there is no way you will take them through the nitty-gritties throughout the subject course area that you set exams from those course areas, and those children are not going to pass. So it's a big problem that the government of the day, the educational ministry at the federal and at the state level, need to look past just punishing people who have found cheating. Not excusing cheating, not excusing the corrupt issues in the examination sector, but then we must nip the source of the problem. And that source is the inability of the educational system to make sure that we have well-trained teachers, qualified teachers who are able to impart knowledge into our children, who will in turn reciprocate. And then also, I think another very big problem that we've had in this generation of examinations, that you read examination questions and things that need students to explain, some exam questions will just demand verbatim replication of what was picked up from the textbooks or the different notes or texts that have been made available for those courses. They forget that these knowledge changes, and those children, when they assimilate, also have the ability to paraphrase and represent what they have been given. So we need to do a whole lot of cleanup within the system if we are to cut to the barest minimum issues of corruption, issues of examination malpractice in the academic system?
Well, that's a big issue. Training the teachers is a big need in the country. As of now, we do not have lots and lots of teachers that are adequately trained to be able to deliver on, the educational needs of, students in Nigeria. But then let us move to a conversation that we've been having literally hush-hush in the country. There's been a lot of Nigerians asking the big question: has subsidy been reintroduced? First. Number two, was subsidy ever really removed or upon the announcement of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, or was there a window of time where he reintroduced these funds? Of course, on Monday we saw the boss of the NNPCL, Mele Kyari, denying the reintroduction of petrol subsidy by the federal government and claiming that the pockets of queues that we were seeing resurfacing in different parts of the country was as a result of stations closing due to hiccups in product distribution from the south to the north, and not a lack of supply. Now, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, there's been a hush conversation. Literally, like, people have been stepping around that conversation, attempting not to have it so that it will not be said that they are the ones that said it. But it's been a really big question, and it's high time that the federal government came out to clarify what exactly is happening. Now, the marketers Association, Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, of course, have come out to counter the federal government, and they are insisting that fuel subsidy is back. Now, the reason that Ipman gave, he said that with the removal of, without the removal of fuel subsidy, petrol should be selling at about 800 naira per litre. And okay, so just to put that into perspective, now the oil marketers just yesterday countered the position of the federal government as they insisted that the current pump price of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, should not be less than 800 naira per litre if there was no subsidy on the commodity. So that's saying if you have indeed taken out a subsidy on this commodity, we cannot be selling it in this country for less than 800 naira. Now, petrol currently sells between 580 naira per litre to about 617, 620 naira per litre, depending on the area where you are buying. Now, as the federal government, through its Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, had denied reintroducing PMS subsidy. Of course, so now this is a back and forth thing happening now between the NNPCL and Ipman in the country. Ipman is saying if you have indeed removed subsidy in Nigeria, we cannot be buying fuel for less than 800 naira. But this can become a two-edged sword, Francis, because now, even if there is a hush-hush payment of subsidy, remember that the likes of His Excellency, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, the person of Peter Obi, has said that, fuel subsidy is a multi-faced masquerade that is used to siphon the resources of Nigeria and Nigerians. If at all there is a hush-hush continuance in payments of subsidy in this country, don't you also think that Ipman coming out to cry foul, which is a good thing in the first place, would also, we were just here in this country when NNPCL, without first explaining what the changes were, changed fuel price from about 100 and how much will we buy, about 180 that we're buying at and all the way to 500 plus. They just changed it. What is the guarantee of Nigerians that with Ipman raising this alarm, you will not just hear that, oh yes, we were looking for ways to just establish because we were distributing fuel with what we already had in our reserves. Now the reserves are over. Start buying fuel at 800 naira per litre, just to buttress what Ipman is saying. There is an investigation that needs to be looked into by these alarms that Ipman has raised versus what Mele Kyari told Nigerians on Monday.
Well, of course, a lot of issues will always come when it comes to the fuel subsidy regime and the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy as announced by Ahmed Bola Tinubu. I think this is the third week we are hearing a bickering between the federal government and the independent marketers. And of course, it raises a lot of concern. And for those who have been following the narrative between the federal government and the different, professional and union organizations in the country, one thing has been very evident, the fact that government agencies, government spokespersons will always say one thing, and then of course you wake up to discover what they said does not tally, and what they say was actually an attempt to cover up, an attempt to divert the public's attention, an attempt to try and make a bad situation look good, and an attempt to cover up and make sure that Nigerians do not actually get to see and get to know what transpired. But we'll always say, while the federal government will say this is a grapevine or this is a rumor, these are mere speculations, Melekari will come in and defend the standpoint of the federal government, the truth remains that the independent marketers themselves cannot come out to make accusations when they're not sure. Now, even if they're making those accusations, there is also indications that if this is not already true, there is something somewhere that gives credence to the fact that this might be happening or is already happening. Now, all of this happened, just like you've stated, from 180 something naira to 500 plus, now to 600, and now recall about, I think a month ago, the independent marketer citing the forex crisis has said fuel might hit about 800, 720 naira to about 1,000 naira, and now we are seeing that gradually heating up. So whether fuel subsidy has been brought back as counted by, as spoken about by the independent marketers, or not as spoken of by the federal government, Nigerians can't tell. But one thing is certain: the corruption in the sector needs to be addressed. And I think for Nigerians, this is the most enormous tax before President Ahmed Bola Tinubu as the one in charge of the petroleum sector. Because if we do not get to fix this, then the president just will go down in history as one of the most inconsistent president, as one who failed Nigeria on arrival. Because if we go by what the president said, he said the era of fuel subsidy is gone, and that was to ensure that the elite of the elites in the society who have kept the country in chains do not continue to benefit. So if the federal government is, going through the back door to still continue with subsidy payment, when the president is telling Nigerians enough of this, the elites of the elites who have held us captive, benefiting from the public, communal resources, will no longer be doing that. But behind closed doors, it is actually happening. I think that would be the biggest blow, the biggest slap to this present administration.
A lot of things will not be a surprise to Nigerians. There's a lot of question mark on a lot of people in the country at this time with regards how clear they can be and how honest they can be with certain issues. Remember that a month or two into the president announcing the fact that subsidy removal was gone, we saw the likes of NNPC and some coffers within the oil and gas sector coming to say, oh, we were able to save, I think it was about 1.3 trillion naira because subsidies were not paid in that particular month. So whatever the back end politics is, but now when you have the likes of Pengassin, the senior Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, coming out to say that they confirm the return of fuel subsidy, we will not think that these kinds of persons will just come to allege that top of their head if there are no specific indices in place. So this is something that the National Assembly needs to get on and let there be an investigation. But at the end of the day, we see governments covering up for government just to be able to continue, because these monies are going to be shared across, that whole national cake vibe is still going to be there, but this needs to be absolutely handled. But I think the downturn to this, Francis, is the fact that if we ever get to buy fuel at 1,000 naira in this country, we are already buying the naira for 1,000 naira against the dollar. It is going to be very, very difficult for Nigerians, because in time past, people used to use 5,000 naira and fuel their fuel, thanks to a very large extent where they can survive. You're trying to tell us that in the next couple of days to weeks, people are going to be using 5,000 naira to get just 5 liters of petrol. Where are we headed as a country? The people at the... It is troubling what Melekari is doing in NNPCL. For the longest time, Nigerians have asked the question and have clamored for the guy to be removed from the seat. Because if you're not forward thinking as a person in the one sector of Nigeria that literally runs the country, you're not looking for ways to ameliorate the problems, you're not looking for ways to, bring solutions to the problem on the table, then there is no need for his likes to be there. We cannot in this day and time watch how fuel prices are soaring. The economy is collapsing. The Naira has been said by the IMF to be the worst performing currency on the continent of Africa. But yet we still have our leaders have the temerity to sit in their office and just, you know, give wish-washy words. There is a problem on the hand that needs to be handled. Nigerians are not faring well. Petrol at 1,000 naira, because I mean, these are corrupt practices also that has brought us here. Like I rightly said, it will not be surprising to find out that in the next couple of days, NNPC comes out to announce that fuel is now 800 naira per litre, just to cover up the speculations of fuel, you know, subsidy reintroduction. Someone needs to be able to be honest with Nigerians in this country. It's a big, big problem.
Well, will the individual saddled with the responsibility to lead these government agencies and establishment be transparent, be accountable, be responsible? Is there a possibility? Yeah, there is that possibility. They say when the righteous is in power, everybody celebrates. When a transparent person is in power, everybody definitely will celebrate. So the onus is now on President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to show Nigerians that indeed the reason why he's been canvassing for our votes, the reason why he's been seeking to lead Nigeria, the reason why he's been preparing himself, according to his comment, has been to bring about the much desired transformation to Nigeria through the renewed hope agenda that he has, you know, sold to Nigerians. And the only way that is going to happen, the only way Nigerians are going to believe it, is when we see that Ahmed Bola Tinubu is very consistent in fighting corruption. And one of the areas that we've seen the worst corrupt practices happen to be the petroleum sector. So, Mele Kyari being on the seat for the longest time, Nigerians calling for his removal. He's not able to remedy the situations, the solutions, or provide solutions to the problems that we are facing in that industry. What is he still doing there? That is the question that Ahmed Bola Tinubu needs to answer to Nigerians. That's the question this present administration needs to answer to Nigerians. What is he doing there in that office? If he is running out of options, he's running out of ideas, running out of how to transform the ministry, why not take him out? I mean, we have good brains, great brains around this country from the petroleum industry, from the petroleum sector, who can actually proffer solutions to move this sector forward in the interest of all Nigerians. But we have one man who has been there. I mean, it goes back to say when, you know, persons stay in a particular office for so long, there is that room for redundancy, there is that tendency for ineptitude, there is that tendency for some level of, should we call it, ownership mentality that this belongs to me. So if we are going to see a transformation, I think it's about time for us to change the pilot. When you see that a particular sector is consistently, you know, dwindling, and then there is a pilot or there is a captain in that sector that is not doing his job, that seems not to be knowing what next to do, that seems to be clueless about the next actions to be taken, the most decent, most honorable thing to do is to change the captain. And then let's get to see how the industry is going to be. Yes, we see that Ahmed Bola Tinubu has changed the captain in the CBN, which of course is also a cause for concern. If you're changing, the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, we've brought in a new leadership, a new administration. Congratulations to them. They're trying to make moves to change the narrative. But then why are we keeping Mele Kyari, who has also followed, been widely trailed with a lot of backlash from Nigerians?
What kind of monopoly does he have
Exactly.
over the NNPCL?
So with all of the clamoring from Nigerians, with all of the advocacies, with all of the calls for his probing, for him to be investigated, for, there to be some new spirit brought into the petroleum sector, yet no action is coming from the government. Is this another settlement or not a political settlement for support that Nigerians are not aware of? Or this is another way of saying this is a sacred cow and cannot be touched?
Well, very, very, very big questions this morning, but let's hope that the people that we Nigerians actually voted into these offices will be able to serve the masses, because we are the ones that elected the people sitting at the National Assembly who are meant to act as the executive arm of government to oversee what the likes of Mele Kyari are doing let's hope that they can actually bring a solution to the problems, hydra-headed problems that Nigeria is facing. But of course, let's head to some conversations around politics. Election petition tribunals have been sitting across the 36 states of the Federation, and different questions have been happening, different results have been coming out. We see that Bayelsa APC is heading to the appeal court over the judgments that has seen Sylvia to being disqualified. Justice Donatus Okoro on Monday ruled that Sylvia would breach the 1999 Constitution as amended if allowed to contest again. Of course, there are elections coming up on the 11th of November. Now, the All Progressives Congress APC in Bayelsa State says it would appeal the judgments disqualifying Timipre Sylvia, its candidate in the forthcoming governorship election. We also see, of course, this ruling was given, having seen him being sworn in twice and served 5 years as governor of the states would breach the 1999 Constitution as amended. Of course, this is a major problem. And I think the person that moved the motion is saying he's fighting more of, Sylvia's character and not the APC.
Well, if there is anything, this raises another very big question on the personalities in this present administration. You're talking about APC, you're talking about President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, you're talking about the Nigerian judiciary system. And we know that as far as democracy is concerned, we have 2 terms. The highest that, state governors that allow are 2 terms of 4 year each. So if Timipre Sylvia has been a Bayelsa state governor for 2 terms, of course, or has been sworn in for 2 terms, that definitely goes against the constitution of the land. But we see the APC is fighting and threatening thunder and brimstones to ensure that, they overturn the court judgment that has been given. So question number 1, why should we have Timipre Sylvia go back as the governor of Bayelsa State? Okay, let's say he was of the PDP, now he's of the APC. How do we rectify the fact that there is a constitutional provision that gives 2 terms to each person to occupy the office of the governor of the state? Of course, this is a very big concern and is a very challenging crisis panning out from the Nigerian judiciary. And we do hope that this becomes one of the cases that Nigerians can look back and see that justice was served, and that justice that was served is actually sustained. Because if we get to a point where at the state level, governors are able to get to 3 terms, certainly we'll wake up one day at the federal level, president wanting to serve 3 terms. And God forbid, and God help Nigerians, that we do not get to a point where coups begin to happen. Because when you breach constitutional provisions, you're calling for anarchy. When you call for anarchy, you're calling for agitation. And when agitation starts, no one knows the speed, no one knows the speed, no one definitely can tell the angle through which this will come. But we do hope that the Nigerian judiciary system is able to ensure that justice is sustained, not just for Bayelsa, and that every other provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria pertaining to our democracy and how democracy is practiced in Senate climes is being lived up to in the context of the Nigerian politics. But this is where we're going to place a pause on a conversation and head out to the news brief desk, where Mary Joseph is standing by to take us through. And when we come back, more conversations on Rice and Shannon. Don't forget, we will be bringing on a guest to talk about the International Day of the Girl Child and issues surrounding her growth, her advancement, of course, by extension, that of the society. To stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abuse. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
As of state and government, Secretary General, delegates.
Voting for SpectrumTv to recover 45 seats in Plateau County.
Hello and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum live from Uyo. I am Mary Joseph. We begin the news brief with the reports that the federal government has said it was considering and growing the demand for the establishment of an international anti-corruption court, describing it as a pilgrimage shift into its approach to combating efforts corruption at the global level. The government said the corrosive impact of corruption on Nigeria's development, stability and prosperity could be overstated. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, represented by the Deputy Director of Public Prosecution, Yusuf Abdullahi Abdulkadir, stated this in his speech delivered in Abuja during the 33rd Anti-Corruption Iteration Room organized by Human and Environmental Development Agenda, also known as HEDA, Resource Center in collaboration with Integrity Initiative International. We head straight to education, where the National Examination Council has released the results of the 2023 Internal Senior Secondary School Certificate Examination with a record of 61.60% of candidates scoring 5 credits and above, including English and mathematics. The Examination Council disclosed that 93 schools were found to be involved in whole mass cheating, while 52 supervisors recommended for blacklisting due to poor supervision, aiding that abetting during the examination. The Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of NECO, Professor Danati Wushishi, disclosed this while announcing the release of the results to the examination. Wushishi said the erring schools would be invited to the council for discussion, after which appropriate sanctions would be applied. Meanwhile, all marketers have countered the position of the federal government as they insisted that the current pump price of premium motor spirits, popularly called petrol, should not be less than 800 naira per litre if there was no subsidy on the commodity. Reports say petrol currently sells at between 580 naira per litre and 670 naira per litre, depending on the area of purchase, as the federal government, through its National Petroleum Company Limited, had denied introducing PMS subsidy. Back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino has reiterated the need for closer collaboration among states in Nigeria to promote national peace and unity for the rapid growth and development of the country. The governor, who stated this when he received a costly visit the Emir of Kano, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayaro, at the State Esco Chambers Government House, Uyo, appreciated the Emir for the visit, stating that such visits will deepen the relationship between Kano and Akwa Ibom in terms of trade and commerce, as well as strengthening cultural ties for mutual benefits. We head straight to Africa now, where after the closing of the polls in the Liberian general elections, polling staff count up the ballot cast as representatives from different political parties observe and tally the votes. Liberians voted Tuesday on whether to give football legend John Way a second term as president, with peace amongst voters' main concerns in a nation still scarred by back-to-back civil wars. Reports say before polling stations open, hundreds of people had gathered in the early morning sunshine waiting to vote in the capital, Monrovia. And finally, in sports, reigning Commonwealth Games champion India, Kenya, Uganda, Benin Republic, Togo, South Africa and host Nigeria topped the list of African countries billed to compete for this year's ValueJet ITTF Lagos Para Open. The two-day event holds from October 12th to 14th at the Molade Okoya Thomas Hall of Teslim Balogun Stadium, Lagos. Reports say this year's tournament will see players compete in the singles, mixed doubles and doubles events to prepare them ahead of the Paralympic Games. Speaking at the event press conference in Lagos, on chairman of the organizing committee, Sunday Odegbode, said the tournament had received the full sanction of the World Table Tennis body ITTF. We have details of this and many more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine, where we have Francis and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful day ahead.
Voting for SpectrumTv to improve for the lives in county.
As of state and government, Secretary General delegates.
Voting for SpectrumTv to improve for the lives in county.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Of course, you're still tuned to Spectrum TV, broadcasting live on Star Times, DTH Channel 421. We always encourage you to join our online community, all of which you can find at spectrumtvlive.ng. Today on Talking Nigeria, the midweek edition, of course, we're celebrating the International Day of the Girl Child, and we started out by talking about some of the issues where we see the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice talk about the need and the musing by the federal government to create a special court for graphite. Of course, we also talk about the disagreement between the petroleum marketers and the federal government over the reintroduction of fuel subsidy, the issue in Bayelsa election, and Diri has also been on the front burner of conversation this morning. But of course, also looking at the convicted Army General who has been convicted for corruption and the alarming figures of people who have been caught in terms of examination malpractice, among other issues that we've touched this morning. But right about now, we'll be jumping to the main issue of our conversations, which of course is a celebration of the International Day of the Girl Child. Now we know that October 11th each year is set aside by the United Nations General Assembly for the world over to celebrate the girl child and of course raise awareness on issues bordering on the advancement of the girl child in the different countries and continents of the world. Just earlier we were talking about a whole lot of girl child issues, so I'll let you handle that.
Talking about allowing me to handle that, but This is a good day to celebrate women and female children all over the world. October 11 is a date set aside by the international community to do so. Of course, this particular celebration and commemoration dates all the way back to 1995, when countries unanimously adopted the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action at the World Conference on Women in Beijing. Of course, it was the most progressive blueprint to ever have been brought about for advancing the rights of women and girls. So we continue to see these celebrations being carried out since 1995 and trying to navigate the conversation around the female gender. Now, when we are talking the female gender, we're looking at how they, evolve, how, does equity cover them, how does education, how does politics cover that. These are some of the issues that we celebrate on days like this. And also special attention is also given to gender-based violence, where it covers, the rights of women in all of this. And for this year, the theme of the International Day of the Girl Child 2023 says invest in girls' rights, leadership, our well-being. Of course, this is what we are looking at today. Invest in girls' rights, our leadership, and our well-being. And what one will be asking, what is girls' rights all about? Of course, we'll have a guest that will be joining us this morning to answer all of these questions. What are the rights of the girl child? What rights should be given to the female gender in all of the countries of the world? Let's not forget that there are some countries of the world that have progressed with regards to how much women can do, how much access women are given. But there are some parts of the, of this world, countries on this earth, where I think there's one of these Asian countries where women are not allowed to drive in this very 21st century. I think it was 2 years ago or thereabouts that a particular country that had one of those kinds of stringent measures against the female gender actually did lift that. So there are a lot of countries that women rights and women laws have not evolved over time, and it cannot be underemphasized the need for us to have these kinds of conversation to see how well has the community of women done since 1995, when they decided from that colloquium in Beijing to have a day set aside to look into women issues. From 1995 till now, will that community say that they have made progress with regards to women rights in the country? This is a big question that is very, very necessary. In what other ways do we celebrate women's rights in the country as of now? I think our guest has joined us this morning. We are meant to be speaking with barrister Mrs. Emem Ete. Of course, she is one person that is very dexterous when it comes to issues that relate to women in the country. At this time, of course, we see that she was the former chairperson for FEREP. That was, apart from FIDA, I beg your pardon, under the former, the last administration under the wife of the former governor, Dr. Martha Dome, and she's, really keen on looking at gender-based violence. She's a lawyer and an activist, of course. Barrister Emem Ete this morning. Good morning, ma'am, and thanks for joining us.
Hello, good morning. I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. How are you this morning?
Thank you.
Happy belated 50th birthday.
Thank you. It's a rainy day. Weather for two, pregnancy for one.
Wow. Weather for two, pregnancy for one. We will remember to share that good word round, especially today that is the International Day for the Girl Child.
Yes, so when we are talking on right, that is part of what we are talking about.
Oh, wow.
Good people, yeah.
So today we are marking the International Day of the Girl Child, and we are looking at how we can override cultural, religious, and other biases for equity. We know that today's theme is centered on, helping the rights of the girl child, considering the well-being of women in the country. What does this day particularly mean to you as a woman who stands at the forefront to advocate for the girl child and women rights in the country?
Okay, it has always been an issue for me when we keep talking about girls' rights. Because we have one problem for the whole country, Nigeria, for example, the Constitution, which gives rights to all humans in Nigeria, all citizens, and even residents in Nigeria, they have rights. And they didn't say this is men's rights and this is women's rights or this is boys' rights or this are, girls' rights. Everybody have rights as guaranteed in the Nigerian Constitution. It is just sad that women and girls have to fight extra to have those rights given to them. And I can tell you confidently that the things that cause this struggle is our culture, is our tradition, is our religion. All of this made by men. When I say men now, I'm using both as it is written in the Bible, man, including men and women, not just the male folk. Society restricted the rights of women and girls and made them more of chattels than humans. And those biases are still going on even to today. In your introduction, you talked about some countries that are still, having biases against women and all that. In Afghanistan, as I'm speaking to you now, girls are not allowed to go to school.
Yeah.
Women are not allowed to work. It was only yesterday I heard that the other older women are, gathering young girls on the ground to teach in 2023. So when we talk about the Beijing conference and all the strides the United Nations have made to make sure that women have rights and all that, Afghanistan has taken us 10 decades back. And it is not just Afghanistan, it is what is happening all over the world and even in our communities. So we must pay more attention to getting rights of women and girls than just giving deep attention to it. Yeah. We have to, we must, attend to the culture, our custom, our religion that is still oppressing and keeping women and girls under bondage in this country.
All right. Now, you've mentioned very key salient points: the culture, the religion, and other sentiment that have, kept the women in chains over time. One of the conversations currently also being shared is the fact that there is not enough legislations across board, including Nigeria, that looks out for the rights of women. So as we celebrate this year's, International Day of the Girl Child, as a legal professional, what would you say can be done to change the narrative?
I will say that we have enough laws, though. We have the Constitution. We have the Violence Against Persons Law. We have some states now, we have the Women Inheritance Law. We have our judiciary now actively, through judicial means, giving rights of inheritance and all that to women and girls. The problem we have is that even if we have laws, it is not people who keep laws. It is people who keep laws. But if we have laws and we have people who are not obeying those laws, then those laws have failed. So the issues we should address so that our laws will work is to change the mindset of our people, to change the mindset of the people in the inner what do they call the nick and crowding of Uran, the deepest part of Uran.
Yeah, the rural areas.
The deepest part of Israel, and go to the deepest part of Ibno. Those hinterlands to change their mindset, to see women and girls as humans. It is then that our laws will work, so that even the Constitution will work. Because in the Constitution, our fundamental human rights have been guaranteed. Under that law, we can go to court for whoever comes against it. We have the criminal code. We have the Violence Against Persons Law. We have enough laws. We have enough laws to protect women and girls. But when they are broken, do we have strong institutions where they can get redress? Will the police stand to defend a woman or a girl that has been abused? Or they will ask, what did you go to do? What did you do that they did this to you? What did they do that they did this? Our institutions, are they strong enough to protect? That is what we should be talking about laws. What the government should be doing now, what I as an individual should be doing now, what society, what you, SpectrumTv, should be doing now, is to see how government can strengthen these institutions, is to see how we can, as individuals, go in to talk to people, to change their mindset, to change our customs, not culture, particularly those obnoxious customs and traditions that seek to oppress women. Those are the things we should change. Not just to make more laws, plenty laws that people don't even know they exist. You know? But if we go and change those cultures, let me shock you. I went to a secondary school, and we talked about rape. And we asked a young boy, what are the causes of rape? He stood up and told me that it's because of the way girls dress. He heard it somewhere.
Yeah.
You understand? This is what people have been saying for years. Now they can use it. A young boy in JS1 will stand up and tell someone now that it is the way a girl dresses that causes rape. When we have babies as young as 2, 3 months being raped, old women are as old as 80-something years being. So these are what we are talking about. These narratives, that have been going on for decades, that people have grown into and have accepted as the norms. Those are the things we should change, not more laws.
Okay, so another conversation that we have when we are looking at girls' rights, because it covers a myriad of issues and goes beyond gender-based violence. We are also talking about equity. We are also talking about equality, which has been some of the frontline conversations with regards to women in the country. How are we looking at these sustainable development goals to make sure that, like you rightly cited, in Afghanistan and other parts of the world, although the world has moved ahead grossly, there are women who are still in the Stone Age because of some of the activities in their nations. What is the United Nations doing, the European Union? What is the place of all of these international communities to try and change the narrative in some of these nations?
Like I said, most of these organizations you talk about, they've been doing a lot. A lot has been going on. United Nations. I know we've been going to CSW in New York to talk about women's rights. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's doing as much as they can. But then anything anybody does is subject to the norms and traditions and customs of each country or every community. Like we said, all that was done in Afghanistan, for example, all had gone down just in a stroke of a military taking over governance. Everything down the drain. So everything goes down to what our beliefs. Do we really want this thing to happen? Do you really want change to happen? Do we really want these women to have voice? It will shock you that even people, professors, educated people, still have that patriarchal mindset that a woman is to be seen and not to be heard. We have to change those mindsets. That is what is the problem. That is the root cause of whatever inequality, whatever thing that women and girls are going through. So for us to have an equitable world, first of all, a woman or a girl should be seen as a human. Number one, a human who has rights, equal rights, just like a man, just like a boy. A woman who has rights, a girl who has rights to education, equal rights, equal opportunities. Equal chance to come into a class and you look at her as a student and not as a sex thing. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I don't know how to talk of big English. I'm talking of practical. When more girls get pregnant in school, more girls are molested. You cannot take equity and opportunities out of gender-based violence or gender-based inequality, because everything is based on that.
Okay, so
why are boys prefer to go to school than boys? Because she is a girl. Why are they the ones giving out in early marriages? Because she's a girl.
These are really strong.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. These are really strong conversations, but let's attempt to bring it back home. I know that you are one of the very strong voices that we have in Akwa Ibom State on the front line of women and girls related issues, and you have been in the works for the past few years. How well would you say that we are changing the narrative in Akwa Ibom State, for instance? Because the African continent has its own issues. We have our own peculiarities. There are things that you will hear, oh, a woman cannot do, a woman in this part of, Orogonam in this part. So what is the progress rate that we have in Akwa Ibom State with regards to advancing the cause of the girl child?
What we have done is we have what we call the male advocacy group, because there's no way you are going to have this conversation without having the male speaking for you. By the time we have males speaking for us, speaking for girls, males will go out maybe doing their table tennis practice, or when they are doing football together, or when they are sharing a bottle of understanding together, and they talk about how it is better to allow girls to do it's better to do this for the women, to do that for the women. I think the directives will change. We are trying to get males on the table to speak, for women and girls. By the time we have maybe 50% of men speaking on behalf of women and girls, I think we are going to make a huge difference. And we have 20 men right now speaking for women and girls in our 5 states, and they are doing absolutely, well. And then another thing is to talk to our boys and our girls. Before now we used to talk to just girls. We are not just talking to just girls now. We are now also raising our boys to understand that these girls are equal with you. When we talk about equality, we are not taking your place as men. They are not taking your place as boys. You are a boy. You have your peculiar role. She has a peculiar role, but the two of you can work together and make a better world. So now we are training both boys and girls, to see, a community, a society where there's equity and justice. So we are not just talking to girls now. We are going to schools. We are talking to, last week we were at boys' secondary schools. What is it called? Sorry. Cardinal Ekanem Seminary, we were there.
Okay.
And the boys there are excellent. They have an excellent understanding of our message. So we are able to raise those boys, and then each parent raises their children, their boy children, to understand the peculiarities of their sisters, to understand the peculiarity of other girls around them, and understand that they are equal, and not the patriarchal equality that older men carry around. Oh, they are going to take your place. We have to raise our voice to understand that when we say girls are equal with you, does not mean that they are going to drag your headship with you. You are a boy. Everybody understands that you are a boy. That you should also understand that she's a girl, and you have equal opportunities and equal place in the society. So that's what we are doing in Akwa Ibom. And that's why, last time we even had a boys' conference. We started a boys' conference for boys, to bring them on, because there is no way we are going to have an equitable society for our girls in our society if we do not bring our boys, if we do not bring our men on board. And then we do a lot of sensitization, because this is an awareness creation. And we do a lot of workshops, to build confidence in girls and boys, to make them understand who they are and how to stand their ground, and tell them society is not kind enough to give you chances. You have to grab your chances by yourself and create a space for yourself and fly higher and grab those jobs that were meant for boys that they said, oh, girls cannot do it. Go out for it. Go for sciences. Become medical doctors. Become a mechanic. Whatever a girl can be. Whatever you want to be. That is the messages we are taking to our schools, because we have to catch them young. We have to catch them young so that they do not make the mistakes our mothers and us made while we were growing up.
All right. Talking about mistakes that our mothers made while we were growing up, I know that, I think at the beginning of the show I stated that if there is one legacy I'm proud of, is the fact that in my family, my father made it a duty to let us know that the girl child has equal rights just like we the male child. And that has stuck with me and the rest of my brothers and some other people who have had that growing. But we see most families, even the mothers, will intentionally train their female children to believe that they are inferior to the male children. So in these regards, how do we go about conscientizing the minds of the elder generations to know that we need to start from the very grassroots, the family, to set the right pace, to set the right training, if we are to see the kinds of transformation that we are looking for?
Okay, so that's why we take our sensitization to market. We go to market, we go to churches, you know, we engage stakeholders, major stakeholders, you know, to talk to our women. We go to women's fellowships. It starts them. It starts there. When our children are young, they listen to us, and it is what we tell them, you know, that they take. So you cannot take your own experience, in which you know affected you negatively, and then you pass down that same message to your daughter, thinking that it will make a difference. When you know that thing you did, what your own mother told you, did not work well. And then you're taking the same message just because it is what he said. So we are going around churches because that's where you find a lot of women. We are going to markets where we find them, and then we go on, like now we are on TV or radio talking to people, you know, showing them examples of how you can make your children better.
We need to be able to
so
make.
That is it.
We need to be able to make our children, you know, and our females better. But I think one thing you said this morning that we really, really appreciate is the fact that to make sure that life is comfortable for the girl child, we need to have these conversations, you know, with the male folks in the country. And I think I'll still tilt a little bit to the position of the government in all of this. If we do not have, like you had rightly established, it is not a problem of laws and policies. It's rather a problem of implementation of laws and policies in the country. Now we have a new government in power. I know that you were close to works in the last administration. What is the body language of this particular administration so far as you know, attempted to permutate in order to make sure that life is good for the Akwa Ibom child? You know that in past years, before the administration of the likes of Godswill Akpabio came about, we used to have a lot of issues with name tagging and all kinds of things that made life really difficult. But over the years, we've navigated from there. It's a new administration. What do you have as a vision to continue to push the narrative of a safe space for the girl child?
We did not stop. You know, we have the Akwa Ibom State Gender-Based Violence Management Committee, which is headed by the wife of the governor. So that committee did not, you know, go with the former governor, you know, the wife of the former governor. It continued because Her Excellency, Pastor Mrs. Patience Omoino, has stepped into the position as chairperson. And as last week, we had meetings and we have, you know, drawn up our work plan and what we are doing for Akwa. We are continuing. Sorry, we are continuing our work. It never stops. We're still going on with our sensitization. We're still going on with all the work we're doing, because the Gender-Based Violence Management Committee was not just it wasn't a pet project, or it wasn't the project of Dr. Martha Udom Emmanuel. It was a state project, and it comprises of members from line ministries, civil servants that are still in service. So it is a committee that will, you know, outlive administration. That is one of the, you know, things that were put in place to ensure sustainability of this fight against, you know, of this fight for the rights of women and girls in Akwa Ibom. So government has instituted that committee, and it's going to outlive every administration. So we did not stop working even when there was a transition, and now that we have begun, we were still working, we were still going out on sensitization. I'm still receiving complaints. We are still prosecuting criminals. We are still, you know, publicizing people we have convicted and all that. We never stop. So this government is on all fours, and His Excellency Pastor Moino has committed, you know, to ensuring that he continues from where his predecessor stopped, and he has even injected more, you know, into giving us more work and more areas to cover to ensure that you know, and Akwa Ibom women and girls have a conducive atmosphere to work and live in the state. So the state government is on all fours, and from next week, you will start our full sensitization. You know, we have about 2,800 schools in Akwa Ibom, and we have divided into 3 territorial districts, and we are going around those schools, to distribute the training manual we had done, on GBV. We have to go to also distribute the referral pathway of the state and all that. We are going to all these schools. We are also going to churches, So from next week, you will get a lot of activities. We are going to invite you, to come and cover those events as your corporate more responsibility, etc. So we are going to call SpectrumTv if we have to be there. We are going to call Planet TV if radio come and cover our events, so that when we talk to this student, you can also, put it into your TV, your radio too, so that a lot of other acquired mobiles will hear about what we are doing.
Wow.
So we are on course and we are going on. Yeah.
Very, very great. So we talked about the fact that this year's theme is investing in girls' rights, and you've covered the fact that the likes of Pastor Omoino are making great investments, and they're saying invest in our rights, our leadership, and our well-being. Let's touch a little bit just before we let you go this morning. Women in leadership, political positions, 35% affirmative, because these are also right. We are not seeing a lot of women representation in politics. It is taking a toll on the kinds of policies that are brought about, to cover women's rights in the country. What are your thoughts with regards to women in leadership across all spheres in the country, the world over?
Yeah. Well, first of all, they say that women are more than men. Is that not what they say?
That's what they say.
So what we should do is that women, we should use our numbers. Let us start first. Let's not, if government will not give you a seat, women, we should create seat for ourselves. Let's come together and come and say, come and run for governor. And then all the women in Akwa will say, will vote for me. Would I become governor? I will become governor. So let women come together first. Before we talk of government giving us seats, let women come together and give themselves seats. Let them do someone to say, go and represent us at the House of Assembly. Come out and vote. And not be intimidated. The only thing government can do for you is to create an enabling environment to ensure that you don't suffer any violence or discrimination in the field of play. But first of all, let us be determined. If it is the girl child, let us be determined to become something and be fearless in the face of any threat. By the time they know that we are ready, to take a position, other people will understand that we are serious. And our women before us did it. They are about women riot. Women speak and people hear. You understand? So in politics, when it comes to position in politics, I always say, let women themselves first be serious with ourselves. Let us determine and bring out people who have voice to go and represent us. So that when they get into the place of, when they get into office, they will be able to hold that door open for other women to come up. Let's change the narrative and start supporting each other. If we decide today that the next governor of our community will be a female, we will get it. After all, we are plenty. Let us not wait for 7 women to go and marry one man. Let 7 women push one woman to become a leader.
Words on marble. Words on marble. It's been such a great conversation. I don't know if you have.
I just ask one last question, Barrister, before we let you go. Now, in all of these, how do we begin to engage? How can we engage the traditional institutions? Because, like you've mentioned in the course of our conversation, one of the biggest problems is the hinterlands, where these advocacies is not really much being felt. So the only way for us to reach those locations is through community leaders, the traditional rulers, and all of that. So what has the conversation been like, particularly back here in the state?
Yeah, well, recently, I think last month, we made a courtesy call on the Okivomi Council with the State Traditional Rulers Council, and we talked to all the power rulers were there, and we spoke with them and told them what should be done, or what ought to do, or what is right to be done, and they heard us. When we are in the public like that, in the meeting, everybody will say, yes, we will do it, we will do it, we will do it. But whether we implement it is another thing. And so it is not just to talk to the community leaders, it's also to talk to the community people too. Because by the time the people say, no, we do not want this again, even the ruler cannot force them to want it. So we talk to them first, so that because they are gatekeepers, They will open the doors for us, and we go in and talk to the other people in the community to see how we can sensitize and change their mindset. So we engage from the, from the leaders, from the head, even to the least, to the least people in our communities to ensure that we are able to change the traditional landscape of the state. We are doing that.
Thank you very much, Barrister Ete, of course, an activist in her rights and a very serious advocate against gender-based violence. We've heard her speak very passionately in commemoration of this year's celebration of the International Day of the Girl Child, how we can foster equity and other needs in the society. She has said something very strong this morning. Let the women not wait until 7 women marry 1 man. Let's take our numbers and turn it into an advantage across all spheres of life. Thank you very much for coming on the show this morning, and we do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Day.
Thank you, Barrister. Have a great day.
Beautiful conversation. I think I'm going to put her words on marble like everywhere. There's a lot more women can do with their numbers and the strength. I know that when we have conversations on these kinds of days, we have been pushing, all of those equity and equality conversations, women for women kinds of things. And I believe that in the course of time, we are making progress, and in no, distant time from now, we should begin to have some great, results as a result of some of these impacts. Well, we would say that for you today, take advantage of this celebration and reach out to a girl child. You can go to the orphanages, you can go on the streets, you can invest in your friends, people around you. Encourage a female today, a career woman, someone in business, someone who has a gift. Let a woman feel loved and cherished, and help amplify the voice of a woman today. We will be creating a safe space for all of us in the country. We'll take a quick break now. When we return, we'll be bringing you Daily Spotlight, where we bring you information from the front pages of our national dailies. To stay with us. Welcome back. This is still Rise and Shine, and we're beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. It's been a great Wednesday morning talking about some of the very topical issues and things happening in the country and around the world. One way to catch up on all that is if you follow us across all our social media platforms. Of course, Spectrum Television is on Star Times, DTH Channel 421, and we're available also on free to air. If you scan your decoders, you'll be able to view us. Take advantage also, have us on the go by viewing all our programs live on our website at spectrumtv.ng. We are real time on YouTube with all of our contents. Thank you for all of the participation, the contributions, and the feedback. We are here because you are part of the Spectrum family. At this point, let's take a quick swipe at the very front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. What's the stories making the rounds in Nigeria? Crude oil theft, Senate to probe security forces and militia groups. We also see here Nigerian employer pays over 60 different taxes annually, says NECA, page 6. What will be the impact of these kinds of taxes paid by Nigerian employers? We also see here NECA releases 2023 SSCE results, withholds over 12,000 results to sanction 93 schools for mass cheating. Page 5 is where you can find details of that. Army court sends Major General Mohammed to 7 years in prison, orders refund of $2.1 million and 1.65 billion naira, I beg your pardon, in refunds. We also have here Ayede Tiwa appeals as Ondo court strikes out case to hold his impeachment. Page 16 is where you can find details. 5.4 million electorate to vote in Kogi Imo, Bayelsa State, says INEC. Page 5. IMF commends bold reforms in Nigeria. Page 7 is where you can find that particular story. Silva appeals ruling disqualifying him from Bayelsa Gubares. Okay, Silva there. We also have Nigerian employers pays ever. Okay, we've already taken that particular story. Their toll hits 1,830 as Israel-Palestine war reaches day 4. Of course, we are beginning to see a lot of countries call for mediation, prayers, and all of that. Even the Nigerian government has written on behalf of what is happening in Israel at this time. Import volume crashes by 60% at Lagos port. Jobs may be affected. Page 10 is where you can find details. Contractors in gang up against federal government over policy on asphalt, says Works Minister. Compromised staff will be flushed out, sent to ICPC, says Minister for Works. Okay, last story on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Reps to probe use of foreign currencies for domestic transactions in Nigeria. Tell CBN to stabilize naira against dollar and other currencies. We're going to move on from the Nigerian Tribune now and head on to the Nation newspaper. A big story there on the Nation this morning. IMF growth coming with Tinubu's economic policies. Investors rating agencies positive. ICANN exchange rates reform subsidy removal in order. President directs immediate action plan to combat flooding. Page 5 is where we can find details. We also see here airlines to get big boost. IATA admits another Nigerian carrier. 5.4 million, I beg your pardon, to vote in Kogi, Imo, Bayelsa elections, November 11. We also see here this morning, General jailed 7 years for stealing $2.1 million and 1.65 billion naira. Social investments may return to presidency. Bill tabled at Senate. Page 5. Judge Weir, 19 others await result in Liberia's poll. Page 5. Israeli at war only with Hamas, says envoy. Page 5 is where you can find details of that story. We also have here federal government now to build concrete roads. Some contractors who collected 33 billion naira from NNPCL have not been to site, says Umahi. Okay, that's all we have on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Remember, recently the Minister for Works had actually said that no longer should asphalt be used for road constructions. We are going to begin to hear how these engineers are going to be reacting to that particular verdict. We're going to look at the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Big story there. Israel-Hamas war. Federal government holds pilgrimage as Lagos airlifts 310 from Jerusalem. Israel pounds Gaza despite threats to kill hostages. Death toll exceeds 1,900 as oil prices surge. Conflict taking horrendous toll on children, says UNICEF. Clark decries deplorable state of roads in South. Edwin Clark, of course, decries deplorable state of roads in the South. Page 12 is where you can find details. IMF raises alarm over rising inflation. Federal government to cut number of taxes to 9. Page 8. General jailed 7 years. Of course, we've already seen that story. This one is a new twist in the political climate. We see here, I didn't fudge my certificate, says Atiku Abubakar, presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. Why court disqualified APC candidate in Bayelsa State. Page 21 is where you can find the details of that story. Insecurity will help Nigeria overcome banditry, kidnapping, and Boko Haram, says the European Union. Pages 9. Reps to investigate use of foreign currency as legal tender in Nigeria. Page 9 is where you can also find details of that story. NECA to federal government. Begin plans for minimum wage review. Of course, we've continued to say here on this platform that minimum wage review is due for 2024. And we've also seen the likes of NLC, TUC push that a committee be set up to begin the conversation about the minimum wage review ahead of 2024. The last story here that we have on the front page of the Vanguard, and the last story we're going to be taking this morning, is bad roads. Federal government gives contractors a 14-day ultimatum. Pages 8 is where we can find details of that particular story. And that's the much that we are going to take on the front pages of our national dailies this morning. The plethora of stories cutting across different sectors of the economy and even into politics. Do well to pick up one of these papers and look into the details of things happening. Of course, oil theft is a big issue now in the country. We also see ripples surrounding Enugu Governorship Tribunal verdict. A lot of things happening in Nigeria, but it's been good time having this conversation with you here on Rise and Shine, the Wednesday edition. Thank you so much for being part of the family. Please do not forget to follow us across all social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can always have the conversations on the go. Until we return to your screens again tomorrow for some more topical conversations and to continue to grind the narrative for our nation. My name remains Uyai Aneka. Do have a blessed day.